Okay, several questions were asked. First, we'll deal with changing numbered bases other than binary. So, this would be going from base 10 to a different base. So let's say base 3. So I have the number 35, base 10. I want to change it to 3s, okay? So I can only have 0, 1, and 2 in my digits. So remember we set up place values, 3 to the 4th. Let's just write out place values, 3 to the 3rd, 3 to the 2nd, 3 to the 1st, 3 to the 0. Okay, 3 to the 4th. 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, times 3 is 81. We don't need that place value. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. I do have at least one 27. 3 times 3 is 9. 27 plus 9, that's 36. So I can't use that value, so I'm going to use a placeholder 0. 3 to the 1st is just 3. I'm at 27 plus another 3 would be 30 plus another 3 would be 33. So I can use up to 2 of those, 2 3s, and how many 1s? So we're 27 plus 6, 33, 34, 35. So the number 35, this is, okay, so 27 plus 0 plus 6 plus 2 equals 35. 35 to the 10 is equivalent to 1022 base 3. Okay, moving on. The next thing, how to find the missing angle. Okay, I assume that's a trig question. We'll do the other, oh, and then going backwards. Okay, so say I have the number 1032 base 4, and I want to convert that to base 10. Okay, so again, I lay out my bases, or excuse me, I lay out my place value. I need 4 place values for 4. First one is always 0. Second one is to the 1st. This would be to the 2nd. This would be to the 3rd. This is going to be a large number. So I have 1 of those, none of those, 3 of those, 2 of those. 4 to the 3rd power. I had to pick a big number, didn't I? That's 16. 4 times 4 is 16, and 4 16s is 64. 3 4s, excuse me. We don't have any 16s. We have 3 4s. 3 4s is 12, and 2 1s. So that's 2. So we're saying 64 plus 2 plus 12, 76, 78. 78. So this is base 10 is equal to 1032 base 4. Okay, so that should deal with going back and forth between bases. Okay, endpoint and midpoint. We'll just turn the page. Midpoint formula obviously found by using adding of the x's, dividing by 2, adding of the y's, divide by 2. And that gives you a coordinate. Gives you x comma y. We'll say midpoint, midpoint, right? Okay, so it appears that your question is how to find, I think you're trying to say, how do I find one of the, endpoints? When we have the midpoint and one of the points, we have this and this, how do we find that? So, well, let's cheat and go ahead and pick. 5, 7 is one endpoint. let's do something easy. 3 is the other end point. And if we plug that in, x plus x gives me 8 dividing by 2. 3 plus 7 gives me 10 divided by 2. So the midpoint is what? 4, 5? Okay, say we didn't know this 5, 7. You could say 3, 3, end point. My midpoint is 4, 5. And what's my other endpoint, right? That's the idea. We're trying to find that. Okay, we can use algebra. We can say, so we would typically want to say endpoint plus endpoint. So we don't know that. Endpoint plus endpoint, unknown, divided by 2, should equal what? Should equal the x endpoint. Excuse me, the x midpoint. Because this would solve for our midpoint x. So what it has to equal is 4. Okay, algebra to undo this. Times 2 times 2 cancels out. 3 plus x equals 8. Subtract the 3. X equals 5. That's the x value. Finding the y value is similar. We're going to say 3, again 3 for the y plus an unknown y should, divided by 2, should equal our midpoint y5. Multiplying by 2 gives us 10. 3 plus y is equal to 10. Subtracting 3 from both sides, y is equal to 7. And sure enough, looking back at our original endpoint that we used, that's what it was. Okay, final request I think you had, Dante, was missing angle. Okay, I assume you're saying, and you'll need a calculator for this, working with the right triangle trig. Okay, say you have two, you don't know this angle, that's what you're trying to find, but you do have the ratio of the sides. Let's say this is 10 and 4. I'm assuming this is what you want. If it's not, let me know. This would be trig to find a missing angle. Okay, which ratio is this in compared to this angle? This is my adjacent. This is my opposite, and this is my hypotenuse. Okay, the two sides we're using are adjacent and hypotenuse. Adjacent and hypotenuse. Which trig function covers that? AH, that's cosine. Whoops, ran off the page there, sorry. So when we're finding angles, to find angles, use, this is probably what you forgot, use inverse trig. Inverse trig. Which all that means is I'm going to go on my calculator, I'm going to say cosine, I'm going to push the second button is probably what is on your phone or your calculator or whatever, and I want this to come up, the cosine of -1. And then I'm going to put in that ratio, which is adjacent 4 over hypotenuse 10. 4 over 10. Press enter. Calculator should give you something. We'll see if I've got a calculator that does that for me on my computer. Trig. Second. Cosine 4 divided by 10. I want the inverse cosine of that. So I get approximately, again, you can approximate 66.4 degrees. And there you go. If you have any more questions, please feel free to communicate with me, okay? Thanks a lot.